tragic news. The FBI is saying a man committed a targeted terror attack in Boulder, Colorado on a group of pro-Israel demonstrators.
Law enforcement and witnesses say that the suspect, Mohammed Sabri Solomon, had a makeshift flamethrower, threw molotov cocktails into the crowd, and yelled, "Free Palestine." 8 people were injured, per the FBI.
The victims were part of a group called Run for Their Lives, and they were demonstrating to raise awareness of the hostages still being held in Gaza. The White House is saying that Solomon is an illegal immigrant who, in fact, overstayed his visa. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino tweeted, "This act of terror is being investigated as an act of ideologically motivated violence based on the early information, the evidence, and witness accounts. We will speak clearly on these incidents when the facts warrant it."
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a statement today saying, quote, "This attack was aimed against peaceful people who wished to express their solidarity with the hostages held by Hamas simply because they were Jews."
Here's a witness, a tourist named Alex Asante, telling the AP what he saw.
A fire, I saw people falling and screaming and crying and tripping, and I saw the attacker have a molotov. He had 3 molotov cocktails. One of them he threw inside of a group, and one lady lit on fire from head to toe. And then the other 4 people were also injured and in a fire, but not as bad as the first one.
Just absolutely awful, horrifying. This man, Mohammed Solomon, using improvised incendiary devices to set people on fire. Just absolutely awful. Thinking about and praying for the victims. It is being pointed out by law enforcement and others that allegedly his status is effectively an illegal immigrant, that he overstayed a series of work visas and has no business being in this country in the first place. I actually saw this being discussed on News Nation this morning. Fingers already being pointed at the Biden administration for not moving to deport him more swiftly, and this harm would not have happened if he had been out of the country. He has no business being here. We don't want dangerous, fire-wielding, crazy people who, and again, it is not just a crazy, random sort of thing. It is clearly motivated by an anti-Israel or anti-Jewish animus. Absolutely awful.
Yeah, it's appalling and tragic, and obviously there's so many people that say and are agreeing that their hearts go out to the families and everyone affected in the situation. You know that I live in Denver, which is about 40 minutes from Boulder, and so Pearl Street is somewhere, especially around now, where people go to because the weather is finally clearing up. You know, we have a cold, really cold winter in Denver, and so it's usually crowded, lots of people out there. This group of protesters has actually been, not even protesters, this peaceful gatherers that walk every week, have been doing this for about 2 years, every week, just to raise awareness, like not to forget about hostages in Gaza, and just pointing out that Hamas still has hostages, which they're allowed to do. I just think it's really important, if we look at what just happened on May 23rd right here in Washington, D.C., that we remember that we have to try to do our best to bring the temperature down. And while this is an illegal migrant who was here and there's conversation around that, for sure, we can explore that topic in full, and I think that that's something that we need to look at. And everyone agrees that people who are committing criminal acts should not be here, especially when it comes to immigration. But I hate to diminish the real tragedy by emphasizing or by ignoring the pain and the suffering that these victims and their families are feeling, and trying to find this as a political moment. Because at the end of the day, President Trump has been in office for about 6 months now, and so he had the opportunity to deport people like this who've overstayed their visa in whatever fashion he sees fit, and he's been doing so. And so I think pointing it at Biden as the exact person that may or may not have gotten this specific immigrant out is not the right conversation to be having at this moment, when people just lost or are just suffering, not even lost, but just are suffering in this moment. And I think it's a time to really show the world how to come together and show people that violence is not the solution, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum. No one condones this, and no one thinks this or the DC Act was appropriate. Now is the time for solidarity.
Yeah, I'm all for, taking a minute and gathering the facts and seeing what led to this and what actions should have been taken, and not, rushing to spouting off about it without knowing everything. I think that's all fine. I think the information we're already getting strongly suggests that action should have been taken to remove this person from the country. You know, this is going to be labeled correctly, I would say, in this case, although I don't love terrorism as a label in general. I think is often overly broadly applied. And well, what is it? What even is terrorism? What constitutes a motive of general hatred or craziness, or is it political ideology? But you know, in some cases it's clearer than others. It was very clear, the attack that took place here in D.C. that took the life of those two beautiful young people beginning a life together who were killed when leaving an Israeli, a Jewish peace event, an event about trying to bring about peace, bridge the gap, and they were killed by a anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, far-left radical lunatic, as far as I can tell. And you know, this is, of all the things we would label political terrorism, this is political terrorism. So
I think both parties need to confront hate in all its forms, right? There's an opportunity, like through education, through justice, for this illegal migrant that came here and did this, as we pursue this and put him to court and through our system, that we can follow through with this. But I think it's an opportunity now that Trump has campaigned and won on immigration. People do all agree with all the polls from last year that a lot of people didn't think that the Biden administration handled it well. But now it's the ball's in his court. He's been the president, and we can't always look back at Biden every time. It's time to move forward and figure out what the plan is to avoid instances like this. People haven't agreed with the strategy behind it because it seemed a little chaotic, but people do agree that we need a reform for immigration. And so I think that's part of the conversation and part of the change that he promised to bring forward. So we'll just see what happens.
Let me just say this, though, and this isn't aimed at you or anything because you're a perfectly reasonable person, but I think something of a double standard in media coverage about these kinds of things. Whereas, like, let's say this was some pro-Trump, MAGA, fringe, QAnon, old white guy who's got bombs in his van and is going to try to kill Anderson Cooper or Hillary Clinton or someone in the media, some liberals. The media will act in a way that blames Trump explicitly, blames Tucker Carlson, blames Fox News, and calls on Trump to holds him ideologically, emotionally, psychologically responsible for the insanity of this person. When it's the other way, when it's this is a perpetrator of a clear, left pro-Palestinian background, guilty of a terrorist attack against pro-Israel people, is the media going to, litigate this in the same way? Call on more Democratic leaders or left leaders to Bernie Sanders and AOC, et cetera, to condemn these kinds of people? I don't know that takes place. Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I do, and I know we have to get to the next segment, but I do think that there is both sides of the aisle that do believe that Palestinian people should have more freedom, and I think that there's still a conversation about that Jewish people should be treated better as well, and I don't think that that's like a left or right thing, which is why I wouldn't go to blaming the left for this.
Well, I agree with that. I don't think it should be a left or right thing, and I want peace in the region and an end to the conflict as well.
So was Joe Biden replaced by a clone? Well, President Trump seems to think so, I think. Let's see. Latest Truth Social gaffe coming up next. Stay with us.